The number one overall pick in the NFL draft is supposed to be an honor. The best player in all of college football going to the worst team in the NFL. In a perfect world, they play well and bring prosperity to their team. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and there are draft busts in this world. Let's look back at the 5 worst number one overall picks in NFL history. Or at least since 1970. Ki-Jana Carter was a Penn State running back who earned the MVP in the 1995 Rose Bowl after leading his team to a 12-0 record. Carter was a consensus first-team All-American and finished second in the Heisman Trophy voting. In his final season at Penn State, Carter rushed for 1,539 yards and 23 touchdowns and 7.8 yards per carry. During his college days, Carter drew comparisons to Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, and Emmitt Smith. Carter was taken by the Bengals first overall after the Bengals traded up with the Panthers to get the first overall pick. This was the last time in NFL history a running back was taken number 1 overall. Carter signed a 7-year, $19.2 million contract, which included a $7.125 million signing bonus, which at the time was an NFL record contract for a rookie. Carter suffered an injury on his 3rd carry in his first preseason game, which knocked him out his entire rookie season. Carter suffered more injuries throughout his career. In 1997, he suffered a torn rotator cuff in his left shoulder. In 1998, he missed the entire season after breaking his left wrist. And in 1999, he again missed the entire season after dislocating his right kneecap. Carter finished his career with 1,144 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns, which is more than Bo Jackson had. These stats are not very good, as 8 different rushers have rushed for over 2,000 yards in a season, nearly doubling Carter's total for his career. In fact, Carter rushed for more yards in his final year at Penn State in just 12 games. Number 4, Steve Emtman, 1992. No, not Steve EMT, man. Not even an EMT could revive this player's career. Steve Emtman was a college football Hall of Famer. He is considered the best overall player on the 1991 Huskies, who were undefeated and national champions. A consensus All-American, Emtman won the Outland Trophy, Lombardi Award, the Bill Willis Award, and was the UPI Lineman of the Year. He was also named the Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year in 1991. He finished 4th on the ballot for the Heisman Trophy. In 1992, the Colts had both the number 1 and number 2 overall pick and did diddly squat with them. A defensive tackle going number 1 overall has happened just 3 times in NFL history. All 3 of those times happened from 1991 to 1994. Emtman's NFL career was impaired by injuries. He played most of his games on AstroTurf and finished each of his 3 seasons with the Colts on injured reserve. He blew out his left knee against the Miami Dolphins 9 games into his rookie year. The following season, he tore the patellar tendon in his right knee, an injury no NFL player has ever come back from. In October 1994, he beat the odds and returned to the game against the Seattle Seahawks. However, in the second quarter, he broke a disc in his neck. Emtman continued to play, but was unable to close his fist after the match due to nerve damage from the injury. He managed to play for another 3 weeks until persistent pain forced him to undergo season-ending surgery. Emtman recorded just 8 sacks in 6 seasons. One bright spot in Emtman's career is when he had a 90-yard pick 6 in his rookie season, which is the longest ever by a defensive lineman. Emtman had a cameo appearance as himself in the 1994 film Little Giants. The script even spells his name wrong. Tom Cousineau is a college football Hall of Famer. At Ohio State, he was a consensus first-team All-American, breaking the school record with 211 tackles in a single season. Cousineau still holds many of Ohio State's tackling records. As of 2016, he holds 6 of the top 10 single-game tackling records. Cousineau was drafted 1st overall in the 1979 NFL Draft by the Buffalo Bills, who acquired the pick as part of a package of 5 draft picks from the San Francisco 49ers in a 1978 trade for O.J. Simpson. However, he never played a game for the Bills. He instead signed with the Canadian Football League's Montreal Alouettes, who signed him for double the money originally offered by the Bills. Cousineau became a star for the Alouettes, winning the Grey Cup Most Valuable Player in 1979. Upon his return to the NFL in 1982, the Bills traded his rights to the Browns for the pick that ultimately became Jim Kelly. Cousineau signed a 5-year contract with Cleveland for $2.5 million. At the time, this was the highest contract ever offered by the Browns. In 1983, Cousineau was arrested in connection with a minor collision with a police car on St. Patrick's Day. He was charged with drunk driving, improperly using traffic lanes, and not having his driver's license. He was subsequently found not guilty of the drunk driving charge, but guilty of the moving violation. Cousineau would go on to have 6.5 sacks and 10 interceptions in Cleveland and San Francisco. He was thought of as a disappointment in Cleveland, and he never made the Pro Bowl in his career. In 2006 at LSU, Russell threw for 3,129 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, and had a completion percentage of 67.8%. His college awards: the 2005 Columbus Touchdown Club SEC Player of the Year, 4 times SEC Offensive Player of the Week, once in 2005 and 3 times in 2006, First Team All-SEC by the Associated Press and SEC coaches for the 2006 season, and the Manning Award, awarded to the best quarterback as judged by the Sugar Bowl Committee. Russell was taken number 1 overall in a stacked draft class. The first round contained legends such as Calvin Johnson, Adrian Peterson, Joe Thomas, Marshawn Lynch, Darrelle Revis, and Greg Olson. Lane Kiffin, head coach of the Raiders in 2007, wanted to draft Megatron, but Al Davis said no and wanted to draft Russell. Former Detroit Lions GM and Raiders defender Matt Millen said in 2015 he warned Raiders owner Al Davis not to pick Russell after Millen kicked out Russell from a pre-draft interview for being overly distracted. According to Millen, Russell was a stiff who couldn't listen for more than 5 minutes. Russell was supposed to do some rookie talent show for the team, but instead of participating, he walked up to the front of the meeting room with a bag full of money and made it rain on his teammates. After failing to reach a deal with the Raiders, Russell held out through training camp in the first week of the 2007 NFL season until September the 12th, when he signed a 6-year deal worth about $68 million under, with $31.5 million guaranteed. It's sad to think that Jamarcus Russell's crappy career was still worth more money than anyone watching this video. During his time in the league, Russell earned $39 million. In his rookie year, he played in just 4 games, starting just 1. In Week 16 against Jacksonville, Russell threw 7 for 23 for 83 yards with 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions for a rating of 17.4 and lost 1 fumble. His second season wasn't bad. He threw 53.8% completions with 2,423 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions for a season rating of 77.1. In his third and final season, Russell completed just 48.8% of his passes for 3 touchdowns and 11 interceptions for a season rating of 50. In Week 5 of 2009, Russell lost 3 fumbles against the Giants. Russell fumbled a lot, losing 15 of 25 fumbles in his 3-year career. While in the league, Jamarcus Russell was given a blank CD by the Oakland Raiders coaching staff, which was supposed to be a game plan. It was a test of whether he actually looked at the game plan when they sent it to him. It, quote, looked good to him, Russell reportedly said. In March of 2010, NBC Sports described Russell as, quote, annually and incredibly overweight. Often criticized for his lack of conditioning, Russell arrived at minicamp weighing 290 pounds, up from his initial weight of 271. By April, he was reported at 300 pounds. In May 2010, Saints head coach Sean Payton said, quote, players like Russell often get second chances in the NFL. However, due in part to concerns about his work ethic, he has never played another down in an NFL game. On July 5, 2010, Russell was arrested at his home for being in possession of codeine syrup without a prescription. He wasn't indicted by a grand jury, but the arrest raised some eyebrows and probably reduced his chance of making a comeback into the league. It has been reported that Russell abused codeine during his time as Raiders quarterback. Russell was desperate to make a comeback into the league and worked out with several teams over the years. In 2016, Russell said that he had written letters to all 32 NFL teams asking for a tryout and pledging to play 1 year for free. No team responded to the letters. And now, the worst number 1 overall pick of all time. Wait, before you dislike the video, I'm not saying Bo Jackson was a bad player. What I'm saying is he was a bad pick. He was selected by the Buccaneers, a team he never signed with, making his pick a wasted number 1 overall pick. The story of why he didn't sign with the Buccaneers is quite interesting. This was because the Bucs didn't get NCAA approval to meet with Bo, causing him to lose his eligibility for his senior baseball season. Bo thought this was a trick by the Bucs to prevent him from playing baseball and force him into football, so Bo never signed with Tampa out of revenge. Instead, he started his career with the Kansas City Royals. Bo Jackson said he had no intention of signing a contract with the Buccaneers before the draft. disputes with team owner Hugh Culverhouse escalated when Jackson was ruled out for playing college baseball. This angered Jackson because Culverhouse assured him that the visit would not violate NCAA policy. Prior to the 1987 NFL Draft, Jackson was waived by the Buccaneers and redrafted by the Raiders in the 7th round. Hugh Culverhouse is an infamous owner in NFL history. He's been known to drug players with truth serum to get them to admit to faking injuries so he could terminate their contracts. This is real, I'm not making this up. The source is in the description if you'd like to look for yourself. The pick gets even worse. The Buccaneers turned down a trade offer for Bo from the 49ers that included Ronnie Lott, Wendell Tyler, and 2 first-round picks. Ronnie Lott, mind you, is a Hall of Famer who had made 4 Pro Bowls by this point in his career. Clearly a good player. As for his career with the Raiders, Jackson would be a Hall of Famer if he had played longer. After having his draft rights traded to the Oakland Raiders, Bo Jackson would go on to record 2,782 yards and 16 touchdowns, which is fewer than Ki-Jana Carter, as mentioned earlier. Here are the honorable mentions. Walt Patulski, 1972. Bobby Garrett, 1954. Bob Fenimore, 1947. Bully Dansowitz, 1946. Randy Duncan, 1961. Terry Baker, 1963. Angelo Bertelli, 1944. He never signed with Boston. Tom Harmon, 1941. Never signed with Chicago. Ernie Davis, 1962. Never signed with Washington. And Jay Berwanger, 1936. Never signed with Philadelphia, but instead opted to work for a rubber company, which was worth more money back then. This has been the Barangoat representing Savage Brick Sports. Thank you for watching, and as always, subscribe for more sports.